Hi, Chisubire, as always. In the last episode, we were talking about the origins of Africa and why we were created, as well as Dare to Dream. Now, let's break it down a little bit. A dream is an aspiration, right? It's an ambition. It's the driving force. That keeps us going. It's a series of pictures we see in our minds, right? That either come to us when we are sitting during the day or in a dream at night. I mean, when we're sleeping, but it's a series of pictures, right? That give us an idea of where we want to go, who we want to become, or where we must go and who we must become. Now, very often, our dreams are driven by what we see others do. So maybe I would want to be a doctor because I see the doctors in my family or the families around me are wealthy. But how about if I challenge you that you could have a dream that is straight from the seat of heaven, the reason for which you were created? I remember in one of the earlier episodes, I talked about how we were created to meet a very specific need. Now, you must understand that each of us comes to this world in what Dr. Cindy Trim calls fully loaded. Fully loaded means you come with everything you need for who you must become. Scripture says His divine power has given us everything we need for life and godliness, to the knowledge of Him who has called us. All right? So if I come with everything I need for life, it means that at the point of inception in God's mind of who I was to become, He put everything that I would need to become that person. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's take that a little bit further. Right? If who I am to become must change the face of Africa from the inside, doesn't that mean I would have to be born here? Right? I'd have to be born in Africa. I'd have to be African. If it is supposed to be multicultural, don't you think I would easily be born into a multicultural family? And if it's supposed to be international, I would either be born into a place with international linkages or be able to easily make those linkages. Does that make sense? So let's come back to the dream. Wouldn't it then mean that the dreams and the passions in my heart and my spirit will be tied to that? Let me explain. Let me use myself as an example. Ever since I was a child, I knew my space was in the influence space. I always had, the gift of influence. Sometimes I took it more than anything else. I ended up in leadership positions, and in instances, like I remember instances in primary school where as a prefect I was very feared. In fact, I remember after we were beyond high school, I think when university, when somebody asked me, so how was it to be the head girl in class 8? I said, I wasn't. And I could tell them, but this was the head girl. They're like, no, it was you. I'm like, no, I was just crazy, but it wasn't me. And so that has tracked my life. But I've also known that my life was to reach more than 5,000 households. Now, to my little mind, it was so insanely impossible. I would never have known what the impact of technology that would come into my life later would be. I would never have known what it would mean, right, to be able to reach people without going to those places. But I knew I would always live on the continent of Africa. That for me was a given. So even studying abroad was, if I went abroad, I would come back. And I remember in campus, I went on an exchange program and I went to a very good university and I came straight back. And somebody asked me, why would you come back? And I said, why wouldn't I? Because in that point in time, and I think it still happens a lot, the plan for the African was to leave the continent. So who is this mad person who is interested in coming back? But I was interested in coming back because of conversations I'd been having with a very specific uncle. And these were the conversations we were having. What is it here that draws people from other nations to come and settle? There's a phenomenon that is called brain drain that happens in a lot of third world countries. Well, it used to happen, now things have changed with coronavirus and everything. But there was a phenomenon, and even our young people, they still pursue that, was to go abroad and never come back. Because life at home is corrupt, there are no facilities, you know all these things that we didn't have. But then my uncle was keen to point out several major conglomerates or multinationals who had Caucasian, either European or American heads who would come to Kenya, work and finish their contracts and never go back home. We could track Asians, not the ones of Kenyan descent, but Asians who came and worked and stayed. And he began to ask me, what is it they see about our land that they would give up their homeland to become part of ours? They would go to the point of seeking naturalization, which means they would be willing to take on our nationality so that they will not have to keep pursuing work permits and everything. And I began to dream of a land that would be so rich and so diverse that her people would stay. I began to dream of a land that my son or daughter, because then I didn't know whether I'd have a son or a daughter, but my son or daughter would be eager to stay. I began to hope in my spirit that I would be able to influence the space of Africa so that the generations behind me would think it is a viable option to remain. That became my aspiration, to build a homeland that my people will want to live in. Does that make sense? So the dream has been costly because I have settled with the knowledge that I will live here. Now people say the opportunities out there, life is good. I've traveled a bit. I didn't like it because my heart beats for my homeland. And my heart beats in such a way that the achievement and attainment of the fullness of who Chesubire is must have her feet planted on the hot red earth upon which I was born. My dream is that the mind of God, determined for me before the foundations of the earth, that will influence the landscape of Africa, will come to pass. Your dream is tied to your destiny, and your destiny is defined by He who created you. So the first part of daring to dream is to understand that you are created in the image and likeness of God with a very specific assignment to be achieved within the days of your life. So if He has said that this is who Chesubire is, the scribe, the storyteller, and the encourager, and her homeland is Africa, and her place of residence is Africa, then it means that to walk away is to walk away from the dream my Father has. My daring to dream starts by keeping my feet planted where my Father has said they remain planted. It starts by understanding who He said I am, who I must become, the impact my life must have, and then grounding myself and being planted. Who are you? Who does He say you are? What is the impact your life must have? What does Africa need from you? And please understand that when Africa rises to her fullness, then the world shall receive the answer they have been waiting for. Arise and shine, for your light has come.